Over 120 years ago, a group of workers were busily digging out a drainage ditch in the depths of Gough's Cave in Cheddar Gorge, Somerset. They had set to work expecting it to be nothing other than an ordinary day. But what they would accidentally discover buried inside the cave would turn out to be one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in history. I'm your host Prash, and this is Curious Britain. The Cheddar Gorge is one of Britain's most spectacular natural landmarks. Tucked into the Mendip Hills in Somerset and designated an area of outstanding natural beauty and a site of special scientific interest. The gorge is 3 miles long and almost 400 feet deep, and its dramatic windswept cliffs and dark underground caves make it a unique visitor attraction. It started forming during the last ice age about 1 million years ago when water from melting glaciers turned into a river. The river gradually carved out the cliffs from the limestone rock before making its way underground to slowly chisel out the famous caverns over millennia. The gorge is home to a rare breed of primitive sheep called the Soe, who, along with a herd of feral goats, act like living lawnmowers and keep the level of shrub and vegetation down. A drainage ditch was being excavated in 1903 inside 500,000-year-old Gough's Cave when something extraordinary was spotted lodged in the walls and almost entirely covered with dirt and limestone. It was a human skeleton. Work on the drainage channel was halted, and the skeleton was painstakingly unearthed by archaeologists, along with various flint tools scattered near the body. The Somerset Archaeological and Natural History Society summoned Mr. George Gray, curator of the Taunton Museum, to examine the find. At this point, they had no idea of the treasure trove of information that lay concealed inside the bones, some of which would only be unveiled decades later thanks to scientific advances in DNA analysis. What they soon realised was that the skeleton, christened Cheddar Man, was from the Mesolithic era and lived about 10,000 years ago. By chance, a routine drainage project had led to the discovery of the oldest, almost complete human skeleton ever found in the British Isles. Cheddar Man was a Mesolithic hunter-gatherer and was the prehistoric ancestor of modern humans. He was about 5 foot 4 inches tall and would have weighed approximately 10 stone 5 pounds. So although he was more slightly built than average modern Europeans, he wouldn't have looked out of place today, and his proportions were similar to our own. He was only in his 20s when he died, and a hole in his skull suggests he may have suffered from a bone infection, or that it could have been damaged from when he was dug out in the excavation. The cool conditions inside Gough's Cave and the layers of natural mineral deposits on top of him had helped to preserve the man's DNA remarkably well, which was a boon for the scientists methodically studying him in the lab. Their analysis revealed that despite his name, Cheddar Man was lactose intolerant, like many European humans at the time, so he would have been unable to digest dairy. He was a hunter-gatherer and would have eaten a diet rich in red deer, large wild cattle known as aurochs, freshwater fish, nuts and seeds. But the big surprise was his skin tone. Cheddar Man's skin was brown or black and his eyes were blue. When early humans arrived in Europe from Africa, scientists believed their skin pigmentation adapted over time to become lighter, helping them absorb UV light and vitamin D, which anyone living in Britain knows is sadly in short supply, especially during cold and rainy winters. So pale eyes were present in Europe long before fair skin or blonde hair, which only started appearing after hunter-gatherers later began settling into fixed farming communities. Cheddar Man's appearance reminds us that we can't make assumptions about what our ancient ancestors looked like based on appearances today, and unexpected pairings of features were possible. This is consistent with several other Mesolithic human remains that have been found elsewhere on the continent. At the time Cheddar Man walked the earth, Britain was attached to the rest of Europe, and lush green forests carpeted the land. People at this time may have worn ceremonial headdresses made from the skulls of the red deer they hunted, and semi-precious stones like amber, pyrite and hematite would have been familiar to them. The Mesolithic people were also capable of making artwork, which we know from an engraved shale pendant found at a site called Star Carr in North Yorkshire, which predates Cheddar Man by about 1,000 years. Cave burials were common at the time, but they were usually communal. Cheddar Man, however, was found alone, although it wasn't clear whether he had really been buried there by his people for a special reason, or if he had just died in the cave and been covered in sediment over the years from natural mineral deposits. Unfortunately, the Victorians failed to realise the importance of some of the items found in the cave alongside our Mesolithic forefather, as accounts from the time say that a significant quantity of animal teeth and bones, flint knives and bone instruments were wheelbarrowed out from the site and discarded. Some of these were probably from a much earlier period than Cheddar Man, but some may have harboured extra clues about his life that are now lost to time. Specialist artists took measurements of Cheddar Man's bones and scanned his skull to help them create a facial reconstruction. An image can be found online, and I'll leave some links in the show notes. Somehow coming face to face with him makes him feel much less than 10,000 years distant, and reminds us that ancient humans weren't so different after all. Maybe the spark in his eyes, giving a tantalising hint of personality and humour, was put there sensitively by the reconstruction artist to make him look more alive, or maybe it's more than just our imagination. Cheddar Man isn't just a relic of the past, and this antediluvian story lives on in our blood as modern-day British people share around 10% of their genetics with the population that he was part of. In 1997, scientists sequenced some DNA extracted from one of his teeth and found a piece of living history in the form of a retired teacher named Adrian Target, whose home was just half a mile away from the Cheddar Gorge. Target was proven to be a direct relative, sharing a common maternal ancestor with the Mesolithic hunter-gatherer. Today, Cheddar Man's remains are safely held at the Natural History Museum in London in the Gallery of Human Evolution. Other than the 10,000-year-old skeleton, the charismatic village of Cheddar and its breathtaking gorge holds many more secrets. Other skulls have been found in the subterranean caves, and archaeologists believe some of these were fashioned into drinking cups and bowls, which might have been used in rituals. Some ancient bones showed evidence of cut marks, suggesting that cannibalism was once practiced in and around the caves. A 13,000-year-old carving of a mammoth was also found in Gough's Cave, a rare example of Ice Age cave art. Nearby, a dig found remnants of an Anglo-Saxon palace underneath Cheddar's secondary school, along with evidence of Roman activity. Bones aside, Cheddar is also home to the eponymous cheese. The land around the historic village has been at the centre of England's dairy industry since the 15th century, and the cave's constant temperature of 7 degrees is the optimum environment for cheese to mature. Originally, the cheese had to be made within 30 miles of Wells Cathedral to be allowed to bear the name Cheddar, but no such restrictions exist today. The much-loved sharp, tangy cheese has a long and noble history in Britain, and King Henry II loved it so much that he bought 10,240 pounds of it in the year 1170. Scott of the Antarctic took nearly 1,600 kilos of authentic cheddar on his South Pole exploration in 1901, and Queen Victoria was given a giant wheel of cheese as a wedding gift which weighed in at 1,000 pounds. During World War II, all milk production was managed by the government, which led to the standardisation of cheese making, leaving a rather weak and industrialised taste in the mouths of cheese lovers across the country. Fortunately, artisan companies are still operating, and even today they mature their cheese inside the Cheddar Gorge caverns, giving it a complex aroma, flavour and texture. Finally, Lord of the Rings fans may already know that J.R.R. Tolkien visited the Cheddar Gorge on his honeymoon and again in 1940, just before writing The Two Towers. He has said that the caves inspired some of his epic locations, such as Helm's Deep and a fortified gorge in the White Mountains of Middle-earth. From Flint's Anglo-Saxons, Romans and skeletons to artisan cheese and fantasy novels, is there no end to the fascinating history of Cheddar and its gorge. There may still be further secrets yet to be uncovered beneath the stalactite-sprinkled ceilings of the mysterious caverns. You've been listening to Curious Britain. This show is run by a husband and wife team, me, Prash, and my wife Melissa, and between the two of us we do all the research, writing, narration and audio production. We believe there's so much about the UK to explore and enjoy. The ancient isles we live on are enveloped in myth, legend, history and mystery, so we spend our spare time learning about the enthralling heritage of our nation so we can bring to you the stories they don't tell you about at school. Join us again next time as we continue to celebrate everything that's curious about Britain.